Alright, it's time for number 11 in my series of video game movie reviews, with the first video game movie from the enigmatic Uwe Boll. Here we go! House of the Dead is the film adaptation of the on-rails arcade The hell? Who are you? What the hell? Well, that was weird. House of the Dead is the film adaptation of the on-rails arcade light gun shooter of the same name. It follows a group of 20-somethings going to the rave of the year on an abandoned island infested by zombies, and a whole bunch of motherfuckers die. And that's pretty much the story. To say the story here is light is really putting it mildly. It's more or less non-existent, and from what I remember about the game, it doesn't really follow that very much either, with the exception that there are zombies in it and people shoot them. But seeing as how the game itself didn't really have much of a deep story to begin with, I'm okay with them going a different route narratively. There is some horse shit about some Spanish scientist a long time ago who got taken to this island and shipwrecked there, and he was doing some experiments which brought the dead back to life, and that's kind of where all this started. But when it comes to this story, words like fleshed out, I really wouldn't use to describe it. Now, I saw this movie when it first came out back in the day, and being such a fan of video games, I was looking forward to it. Now, at the time, I had absolutely no idea who Uwe Boll was, so I think it's understandable that I went into the movie hoping for at least an okay movie. But oh boy, what I got was something entirely different. It's no surprise at this point that this movie is not only considered one of the worst video game movies ever made, but one of the worst movies ever made. And after seeing the movie back then, I echoed that sentiment. I absolutely hated this movie. It was awful. There was nothing good about it. I was terribly disappointed, and I was kind of pissed that it wasted my time. So I vowed that I was never going to watch this hunk of shit again, and that's exactly what I did until I started this series. And honestly, if it wasn't for me doing this series of rating video game movies, I would never have ever watched this movie again. But here we are. So did approximately 15 years make a difference this time around? Did my opinion of the movie change? Well, let's dig a little deeper and find out. The reputation of this movie is well earned. There is a lot of bad stuff going on here. As mentioned before, the story is so thin that it's pretty much just non-existent. From a technical side, things fare a little better. The special effects in the movie overall actually aren't that bad. Granted, the vast majority of them are practical, but I will say that these practical effects actually look pretty good. It's pretty obvious a few characters are wearing like bodysuits and masks, but they look good nonetheless. There is a limited amount of CG in the movie, and at best it all looks pretty good, and at worst, okay. There's one scene with a bullet that's kind of going away from the camera towards someone. That one's a little suspect, but beyond that, everything else looks pretty good, honestly. One of the effects in the movie that is kind of weird, I can't really say it's bad, but it's just kind of odd where it's placed and how it's used, is this weird Matrix spinny thing they have going on in one battle. Now, I get it, this movie came out when everybody was doing a Matrix ripoff, so it's no surprise to see it here in this movie. But they actually do it quite a few times in one scene, and while no, it's nowhere near as good as the one that was in The Matrix, I can't say that from a technical standpoint the effect itself is actually bad. The movie and scene that the effect is in and the way that it is used is bad, but the technical aspect of the shot and the effect is fine. Really fucking weird though. Speaking of emulating other movies, this movie actually had the nerve, no, the audacity to have a scene emulating, or at least paying homage to, not only Saving Private Ryan, but Jaws. Fucking Jaws. I'll give this movie one thing, it's got big fucking balls, man. The other technical aspects of the movie, for the most part, are kind of what you expect. It's shot well enough, things are framed up, it's not like a total mess. The sets and locations are actually not that bad either. I mean, a lot of them are kind of out in the woods and kind of simple, and the ones that are indoors, while they don't look bad, they are terribly overlit, but they're not bad, they're actually kind of good. The way the scenes are edited is really weird. For the most part, it's okay, I guess, but then they like randomly insert clips of the actual game into the movie. It'll be like 2 or 3 frames, like less than a second, that just flashes up on screen at any given time. It's really fucking weird and kind of distracting. I mean, it'll just be a scene of some characters doing something and then randomly, blah, just for a second, a shot of the game will pop up. And the transitions between scenes is kind of weird as well. They have these weird ramp up, ramp down shots between scenes that have absolutely nothing to do with anything that's going on. Or sometimes they'll just say, fuck a transition altogether. People will go from right here to bam, bam, right into this scene, and it's just really odd. And then there's these weird death scene things they do, which I guess isn't really a technical problem, it's more of an artistic thing. But when a few of the characters die, they just kind of freeze on screen, and then the camera pans around them as everything fades to red like a game over screen. Oh, and this pose they strike, it's not even the one that they're in when they die. I mean, most of them are drugged to the ground and killed that way, and then all of a sudden they're standing up in a totally different scene, just sitting there with a camera going around them as it turns red. It's really fucking weird. I mean, I get that it's supposed to be like a game over scene from the game, and I'm cool with you taking aspects from the game and inserting it into the movie, but that's a bit much. You don't see the Mortal Kombat movie having insert coin flash the bottom of the screen at times. Yeah, it's in the game, but you're not gonna put that in the fucking movie. It's really weird shit like that that's throughout this whole movie. It's almost like this was like the first video game movie ever made, and they didn't know what to do, and they just put this stuff in there because they were the first and didn't know how these things were going to go down. And then over time, they just kind of realized that, you know, that shit doesn't really work. Let's not go too video gamey with this thing. But this isn't the first video game movie ever made. It's the 11th, and it's been 10 years from when this released to when the first video game movie came out. They should have a pretty good idea of how this goes down now. But hey, it's got its own personality, that's for sure. As I mentioned, this is a horror movie. But believe me, you're not gonna find much horror here, and definitely no scares. The movie does try and have some jump scares throughout, but it honestly can't even do those right. A great deal of them are actually somebody's hand popping up in the foreground. That happens a lot in this movie, like so much so that I actually took notice of it and made a note. Lots of sudden hands in the foreground to, I guess, scare people with, I don't know, hand phobias. The few other jump scares it has in the movie just really don't work because you kind of see them coming. I don't mean like that's how the movie sets it up so you know it's coming because you've seen movies for years and years and you know that that's how this type of scene works out. No, I mean like literally you see it coming. There's a couple of scenes where something's supposed to happen and then like somebody's supposed to jump out and scare us. Like a character's opening a door and there's someone over here, and then as they open it and they're like, hello, and the person just like, blah, pops out of nowhere and scares the hell out of us. But it can't even do that right. As they're opening the door, the guy's standing right there. We can see him. We see him before we see the person opening the door. I mean, he's like right there with like a bat or something, just waiting, and you know what's about to happen. But the movie goes on and plays it like it's a jump scare. Typically, jump scares come from off camera, or at least somewhere you can't see, and you're not expecting it. That's why it's a jump scare. Things like that happen a couple of times in this movie, and it's just kind of weird. And it's not that the shot's not framed properly. It is. The guy's just there. So I don't know. You know, it's just bad. And then there's the performances. I mean, if that's what we're gonna call them. This movie has some really bad acting in it. I hesitate to even call it acting. This movie has some really bad reading of lines. It's fucking awful, man. No shit, Sharknado has better acting than this movie. The only two people in this movie that seem like they have any clue of what's going on is the nutty as hell Clint Howard and Jurgen... that guy. Clint Howard spends his scenes in the movie just hamming it up and being crazy as hell. And Das Boot over here just seems like he's trying to hold his shit together the whole time and not laugh his ass off throughout his scenes. Beyond those two, which I don't really even know if I'd call what they do good, but beyond them, everybody else is awful. Like, I don't know how they were this bad consistently. It's so bad, it almost seems like someone was just feeding them their lines as the scenes went on and gave them like one take. It is terrible. And it doesn't help matters that the characters they are playing are just fucking dumb as hell. I mean, really, these characters are so stupid. They're dumb even by horror movie standards. It almost seems like while they were casting this movie, they were looking for lookalikes for bigger actors. Because the vast majority of the characters in this movie look like someone much more famous than them. It's kind of crazy, man. You got Ethan Hawke, Fast and the Furious, Starship Troopers, Dawson's Creek, and That 70s Show all in one movie. Hell, even the villain Castillo looks like fucking Jigsaw from The Punisher. So I could do this all day, man. I could tear this movie apart from beginning to end. Everything in this movie is just bad. Name something, anything to do with this movie, and this answer fits. It's bad. Because it is. This movie's just terrible. So has my opinion of this movie changed over the past 15 or so years? Well, yes, it has a little bit. As I said in the beginning, the first time I saw this movie, I was expecting something else. And I got something absolutely different, and I hated it. It was awful, it was terrible, and I refused to ever watch it again until now. This time going in, while it had been a while since I'd seen it, I knew what to expect. Going in with that mindset, knowing what it is I was about to watch, coming out, I still attest to the fact that this movie is terrible. Yes, it is. Terribly fucking good, man. Hell of a thing what a change of perspective will do for you. Going in with zero expectations this time, I thought this movie was fucking great. Yes, everything about it is awful. It's shit. It's awful. It is one of the most terrible movies ever made. But something about that being so bad, so terrible, just made it so fun to watch. I mean, a fucking train wreck is terrible. It's a god-awful thing. But secretly down inside, we all want to see it, and we get some type of morbid entertainment from it. And that's what this movie is. It's a fucking train wreck, and you can't take your eyes away from it. Don't go in expecting Schindler's List. That ain't what you're getting, and you're gonna be real disappointed. Shit, don't even go in expecting a bad movie. Go into this with the mindset that you would have going into watching something like Sharknado, and you will have a fucking blast. Do I think they were trying to make this movie that bad? Do I think they were doing it purposely to be entertaining? No, absolutely not. They were totally trying to make this a good movie, and they failed at every turn. But in that terribly awful world-ending failure, they somehow succeeded. Some movies are so bad they're good. Some movies are so bad they're just fucking bad. And then there's House of the Dead, a movie that's so bad, so awful, and just shouldn't work on any level, that just somehow comes out the other end working. I actually had a really great time with this movie. I really was not looking forward to going back to this one, but I'm really happy that because of this series, it brought me back to this movie so that I could view it with a fresh pair of eyes. It is a beautifully awful, terrible train wreck of an awesome fucking movie. And after all is said and done, I can't believe I'm saying this, but House of the Dead is worth a buy. I mean, it's so cheap at this point, why not buy it? If you sit down with a few friends with the right mindset and watch this thing, you will laugh your fucking ass off all night. Hell, you don't even need friends to do that. Watch it by yourself and you'll laugh your ass off. I did. So there it is, guys. My review of House of the Dead. Worth a fucking buy. Really? Really? Also, if you're wondering what the hell all that was in the beginning of this video, click on this link or the one at the end of the video to see the rest of the story at the most awesome channel, What Were You Watching? Head over there, watch the video, and check out this awesome channel with some great content I think you guys will really love. The guy puts a lot of work into his videos, and it really shows, so go show him some love. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
Why? They always ask why.
I mean, really, there's some comic gold in this movie. It's all unintentional, but man, that doesn't change the fact that it is hilarious.
Muerte. That's Spanish for death. In case you don't speak Mexican.
I mean, like this chick, she can't even keep a straight face while delivering this god-awful dialogue.
A wild animal. Did you see her face? Oh my god. It's horrible.
What happened to her?
That's just the tip of the iceberg too, man. There is so much of that in this movie. And this is just the first Uwe Boll movie. There's so many more to come. Get ready.